Mountain biking. It's a sport that's predominantly based around trails and, well, some stuff like this. Trails come in many different shapes and sizes. Dusty, tacky, blown out, muddy, janky, flowy, sketchy, steep, and you could go on and on. To manage and build these trails, now that's where it gets complicated. There's an unimaginable number of trails and trail networks in this world, so let's get a little bit more specific. The town of Cumberland has one of the most comprehensive trail networks on Vancouver Island. And Vancouver Island has one of the most interesting trail networks in the world. Well, I'm a bit biased, but I like to think so. In this area, like many other networks, trees fall, hazards pop up, weather wreaks havoc, landowners have different goals, people want new routes, and trails need upkeep. This is where the United Riders of Cumberland come in. In short, they have a huge job to take on.
We're upwards of 200 kilometers of single-track trail in Cumberland. And then you add climate change and seasonal changes and events to the impacts on those trails. And then you add 250,000 uses. I don't say users, I say uses. And that would include, your dogs running and your people running and your bikes rolling and your walkers hiking.
And while hearing from Dougal is a good way to appreciate how much work goes in, I don't think you can truly know until you get your hands dirty. So I asked Dougal if I could work on a section of trail in the network. And he said yes. With the support of Rossignol, I took on this 373 meter stretch of trail called Vanilla Bottom. It's the lowest section of one of the most popular trails in the network, and it's a personal fave of mine. It was originally built by Mario Fernberg and Scott Stainsbury. What makes things interesting is that it was recently logged, going from something like this to this. It's something UROC has to constantly manage, since they have multiple different landowners in the area.
When they said they wanted to log it, we said, well, look, this is our marquee #1 busiest trail, and we blew up everything about it. It was just like, everyone visits this, the big story, and they were like, we'll go better than that. We'll not touch the trail. We'll work around the whole trail.
The trail was safe from logging, but the new exposure to the elements did have an effect.
It really opened it up, and it changed the style of riding and character of that section in such a way that basically we needed to supersize the trail.
So with the help of UROC, we got started. It's surprising how much you can pack into such a short section of a trail. And I think the best way to show how much work went into it is through the stats. The hardest part wasn't digging up the dirt or building these massive berms. It was the stuff that was slightly invisible, like this rock where it only looked like a tiny one at the surface, but the deeper you dug, it just got bigger and bigger. And in the end, we didn't even want to move it. We just shifted it over a tiny little bit. And that seemed to be a trend. There was so much work that we did that no one will ever see, whether that be reinforcing corners or building drainage ditches to reroute water. It's stuff people and I just don't even think about when you're riding a trail. Over the seasons, it was interesting to see the changes. In the winter, mud and ruts would start to form and water would run down the trail, even with our large emphasis on drainage throughout the build. And then in the summer, things swung in the complete opposite direction. As you'd expect, the clear cut made things dry. Wear from riders was accelerated, holes would form in corners, and the tops of things we built started to crumble. Even with all the work we put in, the trail still needed touch-ups and an eye on it. This reminded me of an interesting point Dougal had made.
A trail is never complete.
It will always change, get used, get eroded, and it's a never-ending task to manage. And that got me thinking, if it's like this for a 373-meter section of trail, imagine what it's like for a 200-kilometer network with new trails being built all the time.
If the network is sanctioned and it's a membership-orientated network, to have a membership is the first thing that's awesome. You're on a mailing list, you get information about the trail network, you get information about all the events, and you get information about the trail days, which is the second thing that they can do to give back, which is come out on a trail day, help us brush the trails, groom the trails, open up sight lines, rake the trails, clear drainage, check drainage, help us come and split some cedar to rebuild bridges. And then the other way that you can give back is help at the events, because 9 times out of 10 the events are ways that trail organizations will raise money to exist and to keep going. That's awesome. Those 3 ways. Become a member, help out with the trail day, and if you want to lend a hand at the events.